Settra has come far since his awakening in Khemri. He has seen the subjugation of his rival Tomb Kings, and the destruction of the vile hordes of rot commanded by the servants of Nagash and Nehekhara. His legions have cut down swaths of the cold-blooded, crushed the greedy mountain dwellers, and put the blood god's champions to the sword. The Lion of the Sands has annihilated the haughty Asur, butchered bloodthirsty pirates in the seas, and personally seen to the destruction of Teach's followers wherever they show themselves. As his kingdom grew in majesty, so too did the feats of his generals and princes. Victorious time and time again, against all odds, be their enemies Skaven, Elf, or even their traitorous kin. Under his rule, Archon the Black had been turned against his masters, leading a devastating campaign against the Vampire Council Sylvania and the Lamian Sisterhood both. The Dwarven High King and Master of Golden Order had both shown great wisdom in pledging their undying loyalty and service to Khemri. All Settra had to provide in return was an odd town or two he had conquered on his journey. And the Vizier of Qatar was quickly subjugating the lands of Lustria, his Stone Legion utterly immune to the plagues of clan pestilence. Every battle ending in bloody slaughter for the Skaven. Nekaph and Rasut's two-pronged assault on both Khalida and Nurglish forces was progressing steadily. Nekaph had crushed the defenders of Pigbarter and the Black Fortress with no resistance, and Rasut had easily purged the corruption of the Shattered Stone Bay. Their enemies could only look on in horror as the forces of Khemri seemed invincible. And while Scarbrand's return in the north heralded destruction for our lesser defended settlements, Settra's majesty was as a cleansing wave, smashing aside the meager defenders of Occam's forever maze, and quickly readying his troops to march on the next tumorous settlement of chaos. New units and weapons were being unleashed upon the battlefield for the first time as well. The Acolytes of Tra had journeyed far to join up with our invasion of Lustria. Ualatp had promised this group would bring holy fire to the enemies of Settra. We shall see. Our Cathayan allies had also provided some of their equipment in our trade agreements. Several hundred iron hail guns, as they call them, had been gifted to Khemri. Many legions of warriors were immediately set to mastering the weapons, and after the mortuary cult had enchanted and augmented the firearms, the Dragon Stave legions were on the march. Given orders to join up with Inithor's defense of Telea, the warriors were eager to try out their new weapons and expertise on living targets, and they would soon have the chance, as a war host of Asrai has been spotted moving quickly to attack their position. Battle was upon them. Another belligerent force of Asrai makes their way out of Athaloran to attack. This time, Hierophant Inithor is there to intercept. He has himself a traded out of all of those Tomb Guard for some Dragon Men with their shotguns. These are kind of like a blunderbuss style weapon. It's very similar to the Cathayan shotgun, and we will have some Ancient Tomb Mummies to back them up if anyone actually makes it into combat with them, but I see the shotguns doing pretty well. Only real issue being that the Wood Elves don't have a lot of armor, but I guess more so that any armor that they do have, they're just going to go right through it like it doesn't exist. Let's see if we can bring down the dragons. They've got 2 dragons, a lord on a dragon, 2 Sisters of the Thorn, and then some Great Stag Knights. All those are going to be by far their most dangerous units. These archers are pretty simple to get dealt with once one of our single entities actually moves into range and starts blasting away, or ripping through them with their claws. So, let's get this battle started. And Inithor's force of artillery and muskets stares down Daith the Forgemaster himself. Several of our lads getting blasted away off the beginning. Our Cathayan shotguns will be good use once they get a little bit closer, even though we have a bit of an issue with the hillside here that we may or may not take notice of until it is too late. But the battle strategy is as follows. We use all of our large concrete structures as the anchors, while all of the riflemen, shotguns, and arrows can fire on over. We have our Disciples of Tra up at the top to lend their flame, and then the Necroserpents as well is going to charge on down that hill. We've got all of the artillery, so they have to come onto us, and we're going to just let fly. Screaming Skulls launching on out, as well as the Casket of Souls launching away. Should be a pretty nasty first set of barrages for the enemy there. smashing Ualatps apart. We could not see several of these units of, not the Glade Guard, but any of the Way Watchers, all going to be hidden off at the beginning of this fight, while the artillery continues to pound away. Once they get close enough, though, they will retaliate, and not very many of our soldiers have much armor, so we are really going to struggle once they start firing back. 3 skulls hitting the same unit there. They should have probably spread it out a little bit more, although that would have destroyed the entire unit had they acted as they should. Their fire of the catapult and the souls coming on out. 1 unit of Wildwood Ragers almost gone off the start. The Eternal Guard and the War Dancers also take the pace, although they're not going to be a very good target, even with that 40%. I mean, that 40% missile resistance does knock off a fair bit of the damage. More Asrai being turned to paste. Their archers are going to start letting fly, though. And we will feel it rather quickly. Very low armor on most of our units, same as theirs. Their Lord taking up a very central position to blast away at us, as the Great Stag Knights and Dragon rush down to try to chase off a few of our Wasp Deathspitters. They're a bit outmatched there, so we're going to want to pull them back into some of the fire of our other allies. Several of the shotguns are starting to lay waste to the foe now. Missile resist or no, those shotguns are going to really hurt. Several pellets flying on in, blinking away into the Asrai War Dancers. Hard to dance when you've been shot with a slug. The Great Stag Knights on the northern portion have also been caught by our Necropolis Knights and Disciples of Tra combo. The dragons up there as well, though, so we're going to want to try to quickly fill them with arrows and get them scared on away. What we're doing with the other dragons in combat. While they are large and have quite a bit of health, they, because they are so large, absorb arrows like pincushions. As you can see, the health on this one going down really quickly. Both of our units are very, very glass cannon-esque. And so the damage going back and forth is going very, very quickly. This battle was over in an instant. The Disciples of Trod having some major leadership issues. They're fighting some Sisters of the Thorn as well as some Great Stag Knights, which are incredibly potent units. Some of my favorite of the Wood Elf roster. Definitely proper monstrous cavalry. If we see anything from the Bull Centaur Renders coming in, though, they are going to be an absolute nightmare. One of the giant Dragoons is almost gone. He tries to flutter on away, keeps getting ripped into by those large stone halberds. In their Way Watchers, we can see they are targeted by the artillery teams now. We can keep them pinned down, we can more easily survive this conflict. We have already lost one of our units of the shotguns here. This wasn't quite enough to stand against the Wildwood Rangers, and not really surprised by that. They held for as long as they could. If you keep them in guard mode, they will continue to shoot even while in melee combat. The Asrai War Dancers rip in, they've got some awesome animations. Blades come out, but they keep switching between the shotguns. Come on, lads. Get a dose of Flame of Tra. The shotguns are going to rip into this dragon, who is going to get its breath attack off just before it flees, blasting away about half of the health of that unit. Great Stag Knights on the other side are being targeted down by the artillery as well, stuck in place by the Tomb Scorpion and blasted apart by the Casket of Souls. Gonna chuckle at our magic. Being shot by laser beams. Dragon's doing what it can to dodge catapult shots. That one took 3 of them. We continue to keep Scorpion fighting the Sisters of the Thorn. Very capable unit. Dragon's about gone as well. We just have a little bit too much missile even for them. And our large units are far more durable. Lord Daith flies away. The shame. We will continue to send skulls flying after these fleeing cowards, but this is a victory. We secure the victory, but one of our dragon staves there was felled by the blankets of arrows that were falling. Just a couple volleys is all it really takes to bring down your very lightly arrowed or very lightly armored skeleton warriors there, so Next time we'll be a little bit more aggressive with our infantry and probably try to keep the damage off of them, but we did a pretty good job at keeping them all rounded up. Great Stag Knights only were relegated to about 2 kills for the one. Dragons didn't do bad, but a whole bunch of disruption. We managed to stop it. Let's go ahead and bind those souls. And then we have to get ready for this other army with Barcio. Almost identical, just has blade singers instead of what the other one was using for their infantry. So we're going to stay right here. Never mind, dragon staves are not allowed here. Hope to grab another one of the shotguns. Yeah, we're going to wait on that one. It looks like we've got one more turn for the Carrion Riders to come on back. Shapesh's Netherworld Reaper is going to be coming in on Archon's team up in the north. You come on back over in March Stance into Mirigliano. Would rather not get attacked while we're outside. We'll pass out some skills. So for the Hierophant, I'm going to go ahead and hand him out the Sunscorched Bones final point there, and then start working towards Reanimate. Get working on towards the Resurrection, and I actually think I like him more on the... we can only change it once per turn. On the Royal Tomb Bart, because he can zoom around a little bit easier. Not possible. King Rakash had not been in command of his army for long before the clamor of a massive throng of Dawi could be heard gathering for battle on the horizon. Belegar Ironhammer had been told of the stories of how Rakash had slaughtered countless Dawi kings, forged his own crown, and was there to set the grudge right. Rakash watched the Dawi with sadistic glee. He was previously concerned that Settra had been serious when ordering him not to continue his war on the mountain holds. But now there was nothing the King of Kings could say if the Dawi attacked him first. Right then, looks like Clan Angren has not forgotten how well Rakash and his Scourge dealt with the Dawi in their holes long past. Rakash does have a crown that's made entirely out of dwarven crowns all melted together, so I'm sure this is on the books somewhere. Pretty nasty armies, though, in all honesty, coming on over here. Belegar is an absolute raid boss. 84 melee attack with 100 defense. He's going to be almost impossible to do damage to, especially once he jumps on his Mighty Oathstone. He's also Revenge Incarnate, so we have to keep him bogged down in some of the chaff units that we don't care about nearly as much while we eliminate the rest of his army, which is going to be no small feat. He's rolling with a whole bunch of miners, as well as some Iron Drakes and a couple cannon teams coming in from the reinforcements. Looks like all of his Ancestor Spirits are here. Rakash has his work cut out for him, but if we can bring down this army, we will be doing a serious blow to Clan Angren and probably finishing them off for good. Get the battle started. It is time then to reteach these Dawi what it feels like to be on the receiving end of Rakash's fury. His crown needs a couple more Dawi crowns melded onto it. I think Belegar's shall do nicely. So the battle strategy is as follows. We have all of our great bows up top. They're going to be dueling with the enemy artillery there. Should be doing very good work against Belegar's forces. Their great arrows are quite deadly. We have our Sepulchral Stalkers hiding in the woods over here, waiting for the enemy reinforcements and waiting to rush on out and blast their eye blasts at these giant slayers here. I don't believe, let me take a quick look if they are rocking the magical attacks. So they do, which is a bit unfortunate. The slayers actually have a lot of spell resistance, but it's kind of our only options to be blasting at them. They don't have a lot of armor. We might as well blink away at the giant slayers with our ammo there, especially since that's going to be one of their more deadly units besides their artillery and Belegar himself. He is, of course, rolling with 2 Ancestor Spirits in this army and 2 in the others. Well, it's rolling on in. Angry and ready to fight. We've got Hulkenhoff, Stonebeard, and Dramar Hammerfist. The other 2 rolling in are going to be obnoxious as well, but they shall fall under the magical prowess of our warriors. So I'm going to move on in. Our plan is basically just to spread very, very wide, surround all of these very weakened miners, and destroy these grudge throwers as quickly as we can. They're going to be blasting away as much as they can into our archers, but we are going to return fire. Here comes the shots from the great bow now. And they smash home. Impaling many Dawi, cleaving a few in twain. They've got some good aim. Got some wee little targets. Just wreaking havoc on their artillery. Front line is starting to get blasted apart by the Sepulchral Stalkers. Actually, this is the Serpent Guard up front there. Only a few Slayers fall, but this allows us to not have to deal with the little last attack they do, where they swing both of those axes at the same time to get one more blow in before they fall. Stalkers start tearing into the sides of the giant Slayers, getting a few drop. Flash bomb drop down on Rakash, needs to retreat away as quickly as he can. Enemy reinforcements are rolling on in as well. So part of our force is going to be diverted to deal with them. as most of these miners are already more or less defeated. In will sweep our foot soldiers to clean the rest of them up. Our big beasties will be working their way in behind, trying to eliminate those heroes as quickly as possible. Get rid of that Dawi leadership sooner rather than later. Over on the other end, they have been slowed ever so slightly by a Tomb Swarm, trying to rip as much of that health off as we can. More damage on those Iron Drakes, the better. A whole line of cannons ready to rip into our lovely majestic forces. Put some dents in our golden armor. The Deathbringers of Osirian starting to blast away at those Slayers. The magical ammunition is unfortunately not getting proper purchase here, but they've got all sorts of other targets rolling on in as well, and they are going to be a big problem. Precaution Scourge is going to be the anchor for that battle for the time being. Spirit Leech going down on Dramar. As he is ethereal, he's going to be taking all the extra damage, at least full damage from magical attacks. And the plan here is to have the Khemri Titan throw down with Belegar. Belegar by himself is an absolute problem. 132 melee attack, 100 weapon defense. He is a problem. But nothing is as scary as a 4 foot tall, or 4 story tall rather, stone scarab. Rakash's Scourge has a whole heap to deal with. Slayers, flamethrowers. Hold the line for a moment as the Sepulchral Stalkers can come on in and shut down those flamethrowers. Give them the old poke. Those armor-piercing halberds going to be ripping through that very, very elite Iron Drake infantry. As soon as Osirian Deathbringers can get in there, this is going to be their target as well. We've got lots of armor-piercing capabilities, and that first volley doing a good deal of damage. Rakash's Scourge is taking a dual stream of fire, and absolutely everyone is allergic to that much flame. Took a hit and slid on backwards. Shopty Greatbow hanging in there. Belegar is a nasty contender, though. Looks like this Thane is the one that's dealing with all the extra. Belegar does turn and run. Khemri Titan with each slash bowls over a ton of enemies. Current target of his ire being the Thane. Rakash is going to rush on over then with all of our stone constructs to try to weaken and stop these flamethrowers from completely eliminating his Honor Guard, who are really struggling in the forest there. Ancient Tomb Mummies are also holding things down. The Iron Drakes are down to 13 or 19 lads left. Go for a nice crushing pincer attack here. Keep unleashing Jets O Flame. At the last of the, I guess this Ancestor Spirit over here has been dropped by a few more laser beams from the eyeballs, and Belegar is now facing a butt bump from the Khemri Titan. Very hard to actually see the scale of this battle, but Belegar is facing off against Goliath for sure. Some shots from behind. A lot of those, any of them that are going to be going wide, since the Khemri Titan is so large, will be linking into our own forces, getting some friendly fire in. You Shopty Greatbows have some of the best combat animations in the entire game, I believe. They swing with those blades, they'll put them up, and they'll have some point-blank shots with those arrows. Like these guys are over here loading up 3 of them. You got way too close to that nitro. Should rip through those miners. You don't tend to want to put them in melee, but Rakash's Scourge is down to just 4 lads. I think they have bit off a little bit more than they can chew. Deathbringer Legion now firing into the flank of those miners, while Rakash and his lads try to stop the artillery at all costs. Again, have cannons continuing to fire into our forces and win. Definitely is anti our plans there. Try to stop us with some of their rune magic. I am unimpressed, although Rakash has now been torched with flame. Yeah, running straight at flamethrowers tends to be a very bad idea. Oh, we're gonna go. Oh, you went for it again then. Rakash the torched. He'll get one slice on in there, but he's incredibly weakened and he needs to pull on away. That is not a fight he wants to take. I don't think he's going to be able to retreat, though. He has just taken a little bit too much damage. Lost one more of our units there. This has been quite the battle. But the Slayers are being hunted down to a man, and Belegar is terrified on off, which means he is not actually going to be defending himself at all, allowing us to get some free swings in, completely bypassing that 100 melee defense. It's being hit in the back. I think it drops it by 70 or 80% when you're being hit in the flanks or in the rear. Last few Slayers are being hunted down. Yeah, that blow there where they swing both those axes, you can hit them from a distance. Obviously, they cannot do that. Even with that magic resist, waste the ammunition on it. Whole horde of miners is fleeing on away. Anyone who is not unbreakable has decided that this battle is absolutely not for them. Giant Slayers still doing what they can to bring down our large units. They'll just get blasted apart from a distance, so we don't have to deal with those death blow attacks. The only remaining soldier now being the last of the Ancestor Spirits. Belegar flees on away. The Fury of Nehekhara follows you, though. Is he knocked over for the last time? Where'd you even go, bud? Oh yeah, no, that's the end for Belegar. Fury of Nehekhara was unstoppable. We did lose some forces, though. Rakash himself fell. Rakash is on our guard as well. The last of this battle is just facing off against Halkenhoff here, but this is a foregone conclusion. We will just be sitting back and blasting away at him from a distance. That's what all of these good boys here are for. Another glorious victory for Khemri. A very tough fight, but Clan Angrud was crippled. In the fighting, though, Rakash, his Tomb Prince, and the Scourge were all wounded. We also lost a whole regiment of Tomb Guard, but the Khemric Titan is showing off his might, beating the brakes off of Belegar there. That was absolutely awesome. So we're going to continue our march. We will bind their souls since we took so many casualties, and the Wood Elves are so nearby, we can't trust it. The Vulture Lord's Corsairs have been pulling extra guard duty while his laborers work to rebuild the lost Bretonian city of Cannel. Once finished, the Fae Enchantress was sent word that her people could start resettling the town, in relative peace while the Vulture Legion kept watch. The forests around Bretonnia were no longer safe, with the bloodthirsty Asrai stalking every shadow. Especially concerning was the war grove of Durthu. Treekin Elder had been spotted near the ruins of Paravan. Migrating peasants would make for ripe and easy sacrifices to the forest. Medamedam would not allow such predations to continue. The next challenger to the Vulture King's glorious rule shall be the Fury of Althaloran Incarnate. An elder of ancient proportions, Durthu has come on over with several of his finest warriors. He's got some Way Watchers, a whole heap of other archers, as well as some great stag knights. Then Durthu himself, 2 dragons, and then a horde of Wildwood Rangers. Should be a real proper battle. Durthu there, you're looking a little rough. We shall help, don't worry. Our battle plan is as follows. We have all of our Vulture Legion off on the side, as well as the Carrion backing them up. They will be blasting those flaming arrows in on the flanks of all of these weak tree men who have a weakness to fire. And then all of our Bronze Host, the more tanky units, holding up the front. We need to have our axes working pretty much non-stop there, ripping apart his Deepwood Scouts. You need to wait for some of them to completely reveal themselves, though. Sisters of the Thorn are the first to receive a volley of both flame and anti-armor. Their armor is first sundered, and then they're caught on fire. Bad time to be a Sister of the Thorn. Imperial Outriders blasting away with grenades as well. We're very ready for you. Dragons are going to rush on over. Light a bit of tag. Fly themselves right into a swarm of scarabs. You have to be very careful, though, as the Wood Elves do a ton of damage to our Tomb Barks. Actually, Amenemena might be better served being on his War Sphinx for our battle with Tree People, but we'll leave him as is. Slow things down for a bit. The Carrion are in charge of kind of landing and causing as much disruption as they can. Got a Realm of Souls trying to tear apart several of these units of Wayward Stalkers at the same time. Any of these archers that we can eliminate or stop from firing is going to be a huge relief for our forces, as they are going to be continuously firing upon both of our mages flying up in the air. They're a really easy target up there. Prometheans burst up out of the ground, and the axes are perfectly moving in to scare off his archers. Durthu himself has been hiding back in the back like a big old coward, as his forces are utterly swamped. Forest Dragon, though, has landed in amongst and started tearing apart our Vulture Legion. He has several units to help him out, though. Everyone nearby should be being given the attack order to immediately bring down the dragon. Several units do rush on in. Dragon's been bogged down now by the magic chariot. Should be able to rip it apart with those blades in close combat. Several of our Carrion have been weakened down to almost nothing, but their job has been a very important one. They performed it very well. Some more slow-mos as Medem stares down the dragon. Perfect opportunity to get some point-blank shots in. Gonna go for an attack. Bites the bow. One thing the Tombbark does not have is a lot of melee defense. His is a little bit different, being a King and Medem, but still you'll notice it takes a lot of damage, and it usually gets hit just about every time. Doesn't do a lot of defending. Our Outriders coming on over as well, to try to help scare off the individual units that are left. As soon as they stop moving, they will receive a healthy dose of grenades. Doing everything they can to dodge them. One of the things the AI is able to do that you're not, they can micro every single unit at the same time, which they are kind of all doing. They're trying to keep them from taking any kind of damage. They'll wiggle them around. That needs to be tweaked back a little bit. They don't act very natural as is, even on very hard or even on hard difficulty. This is on hard. They don't act all that natural, which is a little unfortunate. It does take away from the enjoyment a little bit, especially playing against a very squirrely faction like the Wood Elves. They're sitting over there wiggling them back and forth like the Terrans. They're being chased down. It didn't quite work for them, but we had overwhelming odds, and forces are much better trained. Athelloren. Victory Khemri. And just like that, Durthu has been felled. He did get out of there with 2 of the Forest Dragons and 1 of the Sisters of the Thorns. We'll have to see if this other lord they recruited of is actually going to be able to escape. We will go ahead and bind those souls so we can keep our momentum. The Vulture Lord tires of being kept on the defensive against the constant threat from Athelloren. His legions descend like a storm upon the outpost set up in the ruins of the once beautiful castle of Paravon. Upon clearing the scum from the ruins, his men quickly set to rebuilding parts of the city, to plan the conquest of Athelloren. The followers of darkness are difficult to fully extinguish. One could easily mistakenly say that Manfred was slain upon the dunes of Khemri, and again by Archon the Black in the cold moors of Sylvania. These would be proven false, as the Lord of the Night descends upon our settlement of Waldenhof. All those who weren't able to flee were slaughtered, and Manfred's forces stay to lay claim to the lands. The followers of dreaded Nurgle proved to be far less resilient than they had thought, their final force meeting a pathetic end in the dusty wastes outside the Black Fortress. After a few short and very vicious battles, Amenemhet's vengeance on the Asrai has been wrought with such fury and brutality that none have been able to stand against him. The Wood Elves had been too busy watching the southern entrances into Athelloren, and all of their northern settlements had but standard garrisons. One by one they fell to his wrath. Waterfall Palace, Val's Anvil, and the crag halls of Findle. Thousands upon thousands were sacrificed to Assyrian, as the Vulture Legion destroyed everything and anyone in their path. This bloody rampage would not go unnoticed or unpunished, as the entire military of might of Talzin now marches to surround the Vultures. Well, the Vultures' rampage through the forest could not go unnoticed for too much longer. Talzin has sent over 3 massive armies to halt him in his tracks here. Probably going to be the end for this Vulture's push into the area he will be able to coalesce. Of course, though, we will be trying our very hardest to actually win this battle. I've turned off Control Large Army, and we shall see what we can do. They've got the Wild Hunters of Kurnos, some Blade Singers, which are the improved variant of the Blade Dancers, a bunch of Glade Guard, which are very solid archers, Forest Dragons, of course they've got plenty of Forest Dragons, some Zotes. Hopefully by the time that this 3rd army starts arriving, we have triggered army losses, but honestly, it is any man's game at this point. Bring it on, trees. And for the first time in our campaign, the Vulture Lord finds himself outmatched and outgunned. we are going to immediately be pulling back our forces. I saw that they had all of their Glade Guard out front, as well as their Sisters of the Thorn, and so I decided, well, let's pull the units back, let them draw on over to us, then we'll engage on our own terms. They are pulling a very interesting strategy of bringing all of their monstrous units, all of their cavalry, and all their infantry back and waiting for their reinforcements to arrive, which is what the AI usually does, but this time they decided to send all of their Glade Guard forward, I guess as sacrifices to Kurnos. We shall soon see. Volley of Kurnos comes on over, blast a couple of our lads apart. We lose, I think, 8 in the volley there. They were both equal at 98 beforehand. All of our units are incredibly weakened, and so we're doing what we can to heal them up. Our Lich Priest here that came with the city has himself the upgraded Reanimate. So anytime you're able to activate that, you'll be getting 0.8% heals per second, as well as a bit of leadership. So we'll want to be using that as often as we can until he falls in combat there. They're going to pull all the way back. Be blasting the volleys of Kurnos when they can. Make no mistake. But for now, our forces will pull on back and let those Glade Guard funnel on over to their deaths. Apes flowing in the wind. We have our Outriders off on the other flank there. Very lightly armored, so we're going to have to keep a very close eye on these guys, but if they can get any volleys into the Wood Elves at all, they will explode tons of them. They've got a fire weakness, and they just don't have much armor in general, so splash damage is going to do a lot of work. But in March the Glade Guard, they're kind of caught up in the river there, the little stream, so I decided let's send the lads in. We definitely need to eliminate the Sisters of the Thorn as fast as we can. Our Bronze Host have very nice shields and very nice armor values, so they'll be able to absorb this volley pretty well. We can tear into the Sisters of the Thorn. We're going to start chucking those javelins. It's not going to matter. The volley of flame and glaive that's coming on back is going to be overwhelming. Bronze Host catching the javelins and throwing them on back. Now, there's no escape. They have been dropped with the Melkoth mystifying miasma. I wanted to make sure this unit was immediately eliminated. The Sisters of the Thorn are too dangerous to be left alive for very long. So they fall. And we send everyone in to eliminate these archers as fast as we can. The end is nigh. And this Lich Priest is the most aggressive. Gets in there quickly, even though he's limping. Magic Chariots arrive. The waves are going to blast apart the enemy ranks there, and the reinforcements have arrived there. Everyone is streaming on in, ready to do some damage to our lads. Those Great Stag Knights making the ground very quickly. And their charge is devastating. Got a almost miscast of the Pendulum there. The Great Stag Knights charge on in and devastate our line. First one not quite as nasty, but the second charge here completely hitting the flank. Tearing up a lot of our breaching axes. Dragons screaming on into combat with the Tomb Barks. The Barks are not quite rated for dragons. You should not leave them in combat with them for very long at all. Very good at kind of kiting them or keeping them pinned down for just a moment, but they take a lot of damage very quickly. And they do have a weakness to fire themselves, so want to keep an eye on them. Everyone was sent forward to deal with the Wild Hunters of Eternos. We've got javelins, grenades, arrows. You guys are having the worst day. Absolute volley, return volley. The exchange of arrows here is pretty intense. We're going to drop down some Prometheans as two of our barks do battle with a dragon. Both of them have very, very low health, and they're going to be having a hard time with that one. Pure Leech goes down on their Spellweaver. Luckily, she's just on a Greathawk. They're not nearly as dangerous as the ones on Dragon. He's a Spellweaver of Shadows, though, so we do want to keep an eye. Vulture Lord duels very well against the Dragon. It did get one more hit in as it flees, though, which is really unfortunate for the Vulture there. Takes a lot of damage. If we are able to keep him alive until Realm of Souls Tier 3 kicks off, we will summon in his Colossus. Just giving us a little bit more killing power. I don't know if we have the numbers for this battle here, but we shall try. Great Stag Knights being dragged down. The Hawk and the Dragon working together. Dragon landing in amongst our Bronze Host. Probably a really bad idea. They've got a lot of bonus versus large and some armor piercing. They should rip right through the scaly hide. Greathawk, though, doing good damage. Got our Mark hiding behind our Ualatp's Chosen, using them as a bit of a shield. We fire right over their heads. They've got nice elevation there. Really need to keep an eye on the Vulture. All of our bonus versus infantry arrows need to be finding their mark in the Glade Guard, and they definitely are. Moving forward. Ammunition is definitely going to be an issue here for the rest of the fight. Just once these guys run out, they are not so great in melee combat. Even if they have the more decent combat stats than most. It's not quite Wood Elves. In charge of the Blade Singers. They've got the Flesh to Stone active. Now they are meeting the Axes, who actually will fight them quite well. Normally this unit is one you absolutely don't want to be fighting, but they're getting shot in the side with both javelins and flaming arrows, bringing them down very quickly. These Zotes have smashed a whole heap of our Outriders. They're going to be continuing to flee from them. A couple more of the lads fall. 3 with 1 swing of the axe. Their lord continues to be obnoxious, but she is fleeing on away. Spellsinger is almost gone. Their other lord has been floating back here, just firing arrows pretty much the entire time. Not a lot we can do about it at the moment yet, just because we have all of these archers still in the way. Still kind of mopping up some of the guys in the back. And that is a dragon. Zotes have been slain. They do, though, drop down another of the Dwellers Below, which is going to rip apart Amenemhotep's Curse. I actually was trying to figure out what exactly happened to their health. I did not see the Dwellers go off. Unfortunate. That was 2 Dwellers that basically ripped our units apart. That was kind of what happened. It was a mixture of the Great Stag Charge and the Dwellers Below that ripped these axes apart. Spellsinger falls, slain though. Our Hierophant's a little bit up, chasing off as many of the Blade Singers. They have officially become shattered. We need to pull him on away. They are ripping some shots into the Glade Lord, all of them landing. We've got more and more forces streaming on over. The Asrai move unending. At this point, our stores of ammunition are very, very low. We've done a lot of work, slain a lot of Asrai, but there are so many more still coming. They've got a tree man moving on in, got more magic afoot. Things are looking dire for the Vulture Legion. Yes, that is. Your eyes do not deceive you. Another 100,000 of them. And not a number less. They stand in a field of slain Great Stag Knights. They have a whole bunch more, though, and they actually have the Great Sylvan Knights, which are completely ethereal. Only really injurable through magical combat, which we don't have a lot of, so all of these Great Stag Knights are going to be a menace on our lines, especially since most of them are already pretty weakened. They're going to move on in. They definitely realize they have number advantage. The lads are pulling back. There will come a part where our ammunition is completely spent. And then things get real. Currently, they're just kind of sizing us up, sending in their archers first to soften us up. Sneak through the woods, crouch walk all the way in. Bad for your backs. I'm gonna let some arrows fly and slaughter a good deal of my Outriders. I didn't see them moving in. They'd snuck up on me good. It was a right proper ambush. Amenemhotep is going to move on over and try to scare off the Dragon Lord. He doesn't have a lot of health left. But at this point, if we can kind of keep him pinned in, we should be able to bring him down pretty quickly. The Shade's going down on one of the Glade Guard units there. Just at this point, doing as much damage with our priest as we can before we're out of magic. the archers being their real strength at the moment, until those Great Stag Knights close the gap. This dense square would also be perfect for our Pit Shades. We don't have quite have another one. They're blocking those arrows quite nicely. Charging on in to try to bring down that tree man. He also is going to charge into combat. Death by 1,000 folks is the only way. Vangeist's Revenge ripping up on the back line there. We get a lot of damage to the enemy, but unfortunately clipping some of our Endless Vow as well, so a bit of friendly fire. Great Stag Knights move on through, and a Nehekhara actually, I think, has fallen. We missed it barely, but yeah, no, we didn't quite hit the tier 3. He cast the Vangeist's Revenge and was slain pretty much immediately. Now the Great Stag Knights move on the rest of our Endless Vow. We're completely surrounded. Being bullied by 3 foot tall... Oh, I went 3 meter tall stags? Definitely not foot, that'd be itty bitty. You can probably win just with no weapons at all. Kick him around. A Vulture Legion charges on into combat. Normal Soul's kicking it off, doing its best to try to heal our troops. It'll be a tough one though. The Ethereal Great Stags charge on in, they're taking some damage. A few of them lay slain. We're getting some reinforcements also from the town at the moment, but those guys are incredibly weakened. Our Lich Priest finally falling. Being nom by a dragon. It's a bad way to go. Charges in happily into our Ualatp Chosen. We're completely out of ammunition for them. Things are looking very rough. We're down to but a few barks. They are out of ammunition. There goes the white flag. With the death of a Nehekhara and so many troops, our grip on the Spirit Realm is broken. And Nehekhara has his advance halted in the forest there. I'm actually a little bit surprised that his ability didn't pop when he dropped below 10% health. I'll have to do some research on why that did not work, but I figure it would have at least stuck us in a little bit longer. We were facing very overwhelming odds there, so we at least wiped out one of the armies, but just could not hold against the overwhelming onslaught of arrows and wood elves there. We will go ahead and accept our defeat. The news of the Vulture's defeat had already sent shockwaves through the Empire. All of Khemri blazed with a righteous fervor for the utter destruction of Athel-Loren. And while Nekaph and Rasut were not able to assist directly with the Asrai, forces of Khalida were crushed to dust at every turn, with Bast's champion making a especially bold push into enemy territory, claiming lands up to Grimtalk for Settra, thus allowing Nekaph's experienced riders to sweep in behind and annihilate the confused and blundering armies of Lybaras. The final stronghold of the hated siege has been conquered, and for now, the Changer's physical power over the world is diminished greatly. Settra's legions finally make one last march to the tomb ships, all eager to see the scorching sands of Nehekhara once more. Our allies had made themselves quite useful. Balthazar Gelt had slain the last of the Sylvanian vampires and their followers. Gash would fade into memory with thorough use of blade and flame. And over in Lustria, King Esfir has finally gotten around to dealing with the vampire menace. They've got themselves a wizard of the vampire variety, as well as some Death Guard and some Corsairs from the Black Arts. So there's a whole bunch of pirates and kin rolling behind these walls. The auto-resolve will give us a Pyrrhic victory and drop 3 of our more deadly, I guess more of our squishy deadly units. Let's get to purging the vampiric corruption in Lustria. And the Battle of Stone, Bone, and Gunpowder begins. Our forces move on over as quickly as they can. They have all sorts of very dangerous towers here. Do a lot of damage, a lot of armor piercing and explosive, and they will also weaken their melee attack defense and accuracy on their way in, blinding the foe they hit. So since we are lacking any kind of anti-tower artillery or Ushabti great bows, we need to move in and bring down these gates as fast as we can, and have the Khemric Titan move to knock down chunks of the walls. Same thing with the Colossus. We will be sending our Kepper Riders straight over the wall to be harassing these deck droppers in the back, and there's some mortars nestled up on the hill. That will be their next target. Casket of Souls ripping some really good shots in on the handgunners. By far their more dangerous unit here. They have an absolute ton of missile strength, armor piercing, and it used to be... I had a very firm thought that this had a bonus versus large to it, but maybe that is only a technology. Still, a lot of armor piercing weapon strength. It's going to be a huge problem when it hits us. Thankfully, the towers choose to waste some shots in the Khemri Titan, who will absorb that very nicely. We very quickly need to get through these gates. The lads quickly get their kopeshes to work, slicing those gates down. Surely, metal and stone are easily cut through by simple bronze tools. The Kepler Riders are chasing off the deck drivers pretty quickly. No one wants to get feasted on by a gigantic flesh-eating beetle. They are trying to pull us in through their ranks, so we want to kind of keep an eye and not get pulled too deep into the enemy lines. Or at least pulled into the handguns. The vampires like to try to draw you in with foolish maneuvers. The disciples of, these are acolytes of Tra, actually. These came from Khatep. They've got a couple bound spells on them. They've got the burning alignment as well as the Fuse to Die from the Lizardmen. So we see the burning alignment coming down now. Realigning our enemy's strategy. And that of the Great Plan. Lasers straight from the heavens. Rips through a good portion of the line there. An overcast from our mage doing a huge chunk of damage to both Esphere and himself. A little unfortunate. You Shabti charge on in. They should rip right into the deckhands there. We want all of our large units moving in, using their massive weapon strength there to do as much damage as possible. The enemy's dropping down a Wraith Storm right on their heads. Doesn't do a lot of damage there. More to their own than ours, actually. They've got the Black Orc Corsairs up on the walls. They will be doing battle with our Tomb Guard there to start. They'll perform pretty well. They actually have a bonus versus infantry. And they are being assisted by the towers, which are on our side, but doing more damage for the enemy. Our Kepler Riders back in the back line have completely avoided the deck droppers, and they're moving over to now maul the cannoneers. And in march the beetles. Don't want those mortars firing even for a moment. We'll kind of keep everyone else at bay with these guys with their arrows. Anyone who wants to get a little bit close is going to feel their wrath. The large clump of enemies here is also getting blasted apart by the Casket of Souls. They took a single shot. I think that this is what a single volley from the handgunners did. Very, very dangerous. The bulk of our forces is now in the enemy territory, smashing across the hillside there, keeping anyone out of their way. Our disciples of Joff blasting away with the skulls of their enemies. We can't get too close to this because this will slow the game down to a horrific degree, but that is an awesome effect there. Utterly annihilating those low armor units. These guys are a bit different than the others. They've got a... Oh, I thought they were actually different with their missile attack. It is very, very similar, just a different effect there. Still very incredible. Lovely to see. You Shabti will charge straight through that. They won't even feel it. It allows them to kind of work as a purifying combo there. Our Tombbark is not having any of these shotgunners in the back line. The ones that are able to fire are going to do a ton of damage, so we want to make sure he scares these guys off very quickly. Kepler Riders have done their work, and now these other deck droppers have come on over to fight. Very interesting strategy. We'll see how it pays off for them. We'll very quickly see the death of many of the deck droppers, as our archers also file on in. Actually faring quite well. That's why I send the archers over quickly to help. Double Kepra smackdown. Over on the walls, Again, our towers are doing way more friendly fire. They need to relax. Actually, fire on the Corsairs would be wonderful. Blinding our own men more than theirs. Disciples of Jah continue to rip through, while the Depth Guard over here apparently are just hiding. They want nothing to do with it. Proper law enforcement. Let everyone else get lasered. Another burning alignment comes down to teach some people some manners, and our constructs are moving on through. Only a few of them remain. We've got a couple full units, but they have decided to keep them docked in weird positions, and after the death of all of the deck droppers, they now are very limited in their options. And actually, the leadership for the vampires there goes. The deck droppers are going to charge on in. One final charge for them. Oh, maybe not. Brace for impact. They are real scared. Disciples of Jah continuing to make a masterfully artful display up there. Swoogity swoogity. They're just going to keep running. Very brave final stand kind of strategy here from the Depth Guard. The elite Berserker infantry. All given the blood kiss. For their prowess, of course. Oh, they turn. There we go. They decide the fight's worth it. Only to be ripped apart by Ualatp. That worked out real well, didn't it? Victory, Khemri. Nothing less but utter annihilation for the Awakened. Everyone who suffers Nagash's curse shall be purged. We will not sack, we'll just occupy this settlement. Nehekhara grows resplendent. We secure ourselves another province. It has taken some time, but every great king of prior dynasties has now been awoken. Settra calls to all those who will answer. The golden age of Nehekhara will be heralded by the march of their legions. Lamizash and Alcazar now join those already leading. Wakaf, Utep, Setep, Rakash, Amenemhetem, Sahinismet, and Rasut, all legendary figures in their own right, and all answer to the true king. Austria's rat problem is slowly becoming a distant memory, with each bloody victory over the cowardly ratkin taking Sahinismet closer and closer to the first book of Nagash, to even greater power. These victories in both Lustria and the Old World have brought about the attention of those who would search for allies against the storm of chaos. Both Mazdamundi and Miao Ying have sent delegates requesting a formal alliance between our kingdoms, and we quickly make the arrangements. Rasut has been fairly unopposed up till this point, but the court of Lybaras has stuck in at the Great Hall of Greases. They have two defending armies and one that just has itself a Hierophant, as well as chariots, his personal guard of chariots there. We should have no trouble destroying this army here. Our entire force has stock, is extra fast, has all the extra melee defense, as well as we have some Ualatp Greatbow, which will be outranging and destroying any targets we really decide for them to. This should be an excellent battle for Rasut. Let's get to sacrificing these fools to Joff. The last stand of Lybaras is upon us. Rasut's forces should prove more than a match for this paltry force. Doesn't matter how many numbers they bring, our elite shall prevail. The initial strategy being just to eliminate the Hierophant and chariots as fast as we can. We have the Ualatp Ancients to help out with that, since they have their armor sundering attacks. That will drop armor by, I believe, is a total of 30. Yep, dropping armor by 30, allowing Rasut and Oisit here to easily destroy their dueling compatriots. We will go take a look at the other side in but a moment, as these duels are far more important. The rest of the army has their job. The poor fool, he's desperately trying to get back up as he gets knocked over by Ualatp. There was only the Void. He'll be cut down pretty quickly and stuffed into a canopic jar. And while they eliminate those groups, because whack-a-mole is only fun for so long, we have two of the other armies coming in from this singular point here, which seems like a very, very unfortunate time for them. I would probably move that. What we've done instead of setting up and waiting over there like fools is we've set up the entire army. Well, obviously await reinforcements. The Greatbow taking up the position on the hill to fire over the top of all of our forces pretty much the entire match. Both Necropolis Knights on either side, the Ualatp up front, Khemri and War Sphinx to act as the anchor. And then the infantry teams and Astethpi to charge in once battle has already been engaged by the more large tanky units. Got the golden shields already in, the golden host rather, already in the Nehekhara and wedge. You do want to charge them in the wedge form and then try to switch them into the other afterwards. The drop to melee defense is just simply not worth while they're in the middle of combat, unless you have some crazy stats to the weapon strength and melee attack to them already. We will go ahead and phase on in when the enemy reinforcements arrive. And in march the Fools now. Rasoot is going to move to engage their Tomb King immediately. Pouncing into the combat, rather Khemrian War Stinks doing its best. First blood goes to Rasoot, of course, but then gets immediately distracted in amongst the rest of the soldiers. The Tomb Swarm going down for both sides there, as the front lines are made contact. Just an absolute monster mash. Shabti facing off against the Serpent Guard, a bunch of spearmen kind of filing in behind. They are butt chaff. Health soaks to kind of slow our units down for a moment. The Stephanie also have arrived. Battle Cats lending their aid. Small enough to actually fit between and attack the spearmen in and amongst. This is so loud. Hopefully it is not as Sony. I'll have to fix that up in editing. Clamor of battle is no joke here. Someone drops down a grip of Assyrian on our own soldiers like a rude. It's not doing much for them though. Rasoot easily taking the enemy Tomb King to task while he is being blasted at by the Shabti. He was going to just ripping some shots in over on the top and on the Necropolis Knights. Grinding Khalid's forces to dust. The War Sphinx falls, losing its souls, sending several of our Ushabti flying. An awesome death animation. Sad day to see a battle kitty die, but glad it's not one of our own. Forces are just being disintegrated under the onslaught of our own. Khalid's legions have long been due this punishment. We're going to bring our own infantry back just to allow hers to actually funnel on in. We get another charge bonus in. Then they charge once more. Probably didn't wait quite long enough. But Khalid's army was having a hard time spawning in just because of the sheer mass of bodies here. The only way to tell who is who are the red and blue colored Necroserpents. The ones that are more green are of the ass. Just crunching them up. There is very little Khalid's forces can do here. Trapped in a corner. They can cast some spells, but that's about it. We did get one of our Mestethi caught in combat for a little bit too long. It rallies for a moment, but it does disintegrate on the way. Had a hard time retreating with our own soldiers kind of standing in the way. The point of view of our archers the entire battle. Just firing down in a perfect valley here. Over the top of our own soldiers pretty much every time. Really, really bad geographical planning on Khalid's part. Golden Host is in as well. It's just an absolute crush. Not much else to say. We'll speed things up, kind of let the guys filing out for a bit of a moment. The sheer number of bodies that would be here. I think a few of them have had to phase on away just to keep my computer from crashing. They've got a Tomb Swarm drop down on us. Some revenge. Khalid is all about revenge. He's but got a few more heroes. Their leadership is tanking the second they wade into combat. And who can blame them, for they face the Shabti of Khemri. That poor Hierophant, you can see him back in there. He got a lot of friends. Walked into combat going, oh, hang on now. I don't know how you guys didn't see what you were marching into. They've got actually a whole nother army waiting to come on, and in they march. Their leadership taking a hit. They've already hit their Realm of Souls. I believe this is the second version of Tier 3. They've got one of the guys that gives you extra uses of it. Necropolis Serpents charge on in. Eager to do battle. That man took a bolt right to the side of the head. Good old great arrows of Khemri. They've got their healing. And they charge on in. Our infantry also making the charge once more. Warriors of Khemri. I guess those ancient tomb mummies got distracted there at the end. They face off against all sorts of, like, these are just Nehekhara archers. Perform decent in combat, but not against Kepler Guard. One of our Necropolis Knights falls in battle. Sad day. But the leadership for Khalida's forces here has been broken. We'll speed things on up as pretty much the forces are just being squished against the wall, same as before. This is a marvelous victory and completely breaks the spine of the Court of Lybaras. And just like that, the resistance of Lybaras is crushed. We will most likely not see another force near this size. They may have another hiding around somewhere, but it'll be quite difficult for them to raise another army of about 3,000. We only ended up losing 54, but we did lose a whole unit of Bastethi, which is a little bit unfortunate. They're just very, very squishy. Had a hard time pulling out of that gigantic blob there in the corner. We will go ahead and bind the souls then, just in case there's any other armies nearby, but I think we're probably pretty safe. Our treasury is so high, we're not going to worry about doing any kind of sacking or anything like that. We will just claim the Great Hall of Greasus. This belongs to Rasut now, and actually, I think it's due a name change. For your services, Queen Rasut. Go ahead and get rid of this obnoxious barracks there, but we'll go ahead and change this name of the Great Hall of Greasus to the Great Hall of Rasut. Yes, quite. Let's go ahead and pass some skills out. We'll move our way on to the next battle. Rasut then. I think we'll go for magic reserves. Just make sure you're always good for magic, and then earthing as well, because we did quite a few miscasts that last battle there. Then Hizmet is maxing out, or is nearing the maxed out of 50. Becoming an absolute monster in combat too, so let's go ahead and give him... I think we'll go for Returned in Madness, just for a bit more physical resistance. 10 more charge bonus is also never bad. Hard to hit for our Necrotect. We can move on up and grab him. Perhaps a bit more armor. Keep it a little bit more survivable in combat. He's definitely the weakest unit in that entire army. Prince Onuris. You are pretty well maxed out, so we'll go ahead and just give you the specialist, just in case we ever want to do anything. We'll make it real cheap. Archon up in the north, we'll give you... Be a good idea probably to give him over my dead body to fly around a little quicker on his dragon. Maybe keep him from getting punched out of the sky by Isabella in the future. For Omaha Anubis, we will give him the Trapped Soul buff, giving him a little bit more physical, or I guess spell resistance, and then the ability to cause terror. We'll be better against fighting against the kind of the regular run-of-the-mill Chaos Forces and Norska, not so much against the undead. For Krata Oisit, we will give him the ability to have a bit more health, and then we'll go for the Blade Master. King Thutep. I think you, my Sphinxian fella, will give you the Exorcism. Keep working down his magic spell line there. We can start working on his red line. But Mose, don't really care about you so much. You're off blowing up buildings for me, so you know what? We'll give you the Specialist perk. Perfect. Archon grew tired of the snowy north already. The supposed champions of chaos avoided his legions at every turn, and it was incredibly boring to chase these warped fools around. If they would not bring him a worthy fight, then he would unleash his full wrath on every town inhabited by chaos in his path. After their disastrous defeat by Rasut's hands, the court of Lybaras had nowhere left to run. Nekaph crushes the last of their defenders at Flayed Rock, finally bringing the rebellious city-state to heel. Khalida, with no further options, and bested at last, agrees to join Khemri, and is allowed to return to Lybaras to rest. And after much slaughter, we have made our way up to the Black Creek Raiders. Mortgin, Wrathbringer of Hashkanesh, is the holder of the first book of Nagash there. He's got 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers and kind of a normal run-of-the-mill Dark Elf army with some Chaos Forces mixed in. He's got even a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, so we'll have a very large, anti-large target. This will be quite the battle, even though the auto-resolve says they're going to be smushed like roaches. Let's get to the fight. Claim the first Book of Nagash. We've come so far for the first Book of Nagash, and all we must do now is reach out and take it. And who better to do that than the Stone Legion and the Vizier of Qatar? He has stood unchallenged this entire campaign, and actually this may be blasphemous, but in a straight-up fight between his army and Settra's, there would be absolutely no contest. Settra would get backhanded against the wall. Let's get this battle going. So for our strategy, we have the Ushabti taking the high ground, and the Sepulchral Stalkers, both the ROR unit and the regular, acting as their invisible shield. Anything that gets too close will have a really, really bad day. The Old Guard and the Necros Tech are hanging up top to make sure everyone is topped off with health in case there is any problems up there. In case those Reaper Bolt throwers get too feisty. They're going to be firing on the Prince and the Hyro Titan pretty much the entire battle. And I did have a little bit of a misclick here and put our Bone Giant in the woods, so he has the best view of the enemy here. I'm sure he could make that shot 100% of the time. The battle strategy is pretty much just to smash into them as fast as we can. We have Quas Deathbitters up front to kind of blast away at the Marauders, and the Blackguard of Nagaron before we get too close. They are going to be invisible. I guess these guys aren't invisible, but they have so much armor that they're going to be nigh invincible on the way in. The Dark Shards have lots of other targets. Reaper Bolt Throwers are going to be ripping shots in at Onuris there. Actually landing a few hits. A glancing blow. We're moving up ever so cautiously. I wanted to try to get our archers in play before we did anything else, but the enemy was firing away with those Reaper Bolt Throwers pretty aggressively. In move the Ushabti. As soon as they start firing, the enemy is going to have a really bad day. Speaking of bad day, as Marauders are sent flying, the Deathspitter Guard tears into the front line there. Realized pretty quickly that this was not the best target for them. The Blackguard of Nagaron needed some attitude readjustment, and so we deliver. The other giving them readjustment from a long range is going to be the Bone Giant back there. But yeah, as you can see, the Blackguard of Nagaron really not enjoying those armor-piercing magical hits. Bone Giant blasting a single hit in, exploding the enemy. Amazing to see. Our Bone Giant has the maximum upgrade now, so he's got the incredibly potent shot there with his arrows. Wanted to see his stats, please. That's pretty incredible stats. He's got Hawkish Precision as well, so if no one's near him, he's going to have way more accuracy, reload skill, and do more damage. And you'll see just how good that works. The combined fire of Airburst arrows, great arrows doing amazing work to the Net Blackguard of Nagaron. We're also unfortunately suffering from Quaff's Deadly Poison, taking some damage per second. Khemri Titan taking some hits from all of their Dark Shards and absorbing it pretty well. Taking a good bit of damage, we'd rather it go to him than anyone else. As the front line is engaged between the Witch Elves and all of our Ushabti and the Horrors of the Night. Got some aspiring champions in there as well, but the Skullstorm should straighten out all of that nonsense pretty quickly. Witch Elves have very low armor and will be ripped to shreds by the Skullstorm. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth being a big ol' issue. This battle is going so quickly, it's almost impossible to take it off of slow-mo. So this is Chaos Giant over here, taking an absolute beating from all of the archers, as well as Quas Deathspitter Guard and the Ushabti Ancients ripping in on his ankles. Everyone's got an Achilles and they're trying to go through the front to get to it. They'll give some hits back. Nothing we can't heal up in a jiff. The Giant is immediately eliminated. One more chop and he'll fall. Weakness incarnate. The other Blackguard doing battle with our Necrotect, who's taking all of that pretty nicely here. Blackguard are really not enjoying having their armor sundered away, what they do normally have. The last unit of Blackguard of Nagaron, actually these are chosen, moving their way out of the forest there. Getting stepped on by the Hyro Titan now. Chaos Chunky Salsa on order. These four chosen, absolutely obliterated. The Dark Gods have abandoned you this day. Jagat is even trying to do battle with a Necrotech. Little does he know he's being stuck in place while the Wasp Death Fitters there do all their damage. That poison over time is incredible. If I was to have another campaign, I would definitely be beelining for... With so many great arrows to the side of the head. I'm impressed he gets back up. That's a champion right there. Someone give him a gold medal. We won't be giving him a gold medal. We'll be removing his head from his shoulders, but he fights very hard. Switching to the crossbow. Yeah, there you go. That's a better idea. Nah, see, that's wrong. That crossbow's gonna get you killed, bud. And just like that, the head of the Druchii Lord falls. First Book of Nagash is ours. A glorious battle to claim the first Book of Nagash. They stood absolutely no chance. Obliterated by the stone constructs. We lost a few in the battle, but nothing we can't replenish on up.
I always need slaves.
Sleep of Oblivion. At the same time as claiming the first Book of Nagash. Excellent. So this will give us one extra hero capacity for all heroes, less hero action cost, and a more hero action success chance by 10%, which will help us out. Not so much near the end of the series here, but if we could gain this earlier on, it would have been a very good help. Onward to the final battle. With righteous fury over the defeat of Amenemhetem, Settra unleashes all of the Tomb Princes he can gather upon Athel-Loren. Their only order to sow death, destruction, and chaos in the forests, so that his armies could march in and crush the Asrai while they were scrambling. Kingsglade falls swiftly to Rakash, and all surviving Asrai flee to the Oak of Ages for one final stand. And now for an arguably even more lopsided battle as we rip the Asrai from their roots. King Setep is going to be leading this charge. He has the extra poison damage on both of his Sepulchral Stalkers, so those missiles are going to be dealing extra damage per second and poisoning the enemy, dropping their speed and their melee prowess. So their first targets are definitely going to be these trees. Everyone in the area that has arrows is going to be firing on those treekin. We will be sitting the Serpent Guard up front, act as a kind of armored wall. We'll be using them to fire in on basically all of the unarmored Deepwood Scouts. And if the Wildwood Rangers close that gap, they will still have a really, really bad time in melee with those Serpent Guard. For Setep's main advanced force here, we'll have the Casket of Souls blasting away at any archers that kind of stop and start firing on us, while the infantry, once these guys kind of actually do some damage, the infantry will move in and engage different targets. We'll see if we can get this battle ended before our reinforcements even arrive. Casket of Souls blasts away at the Dryads that are docked on this area here like big fools. The tree did shield them a bit there. The Forest of Athel-Loren defending its own. After chasing them around, though, for this many turns, I cannot wait to play as the Dobbies. We are burning the Witchwood to the ground. Our arrows are ripping into the treekin, who are really not sure what to do. Swift Shiver Shards are being a big ol' issue. But our own Serpent Guard there are pretty deadly in a ranged duel. Even with lads that are firing 2 arrows at once. Our infantry are just starting to move up, and we'll get on over there in a moment, but the Sepulchral Stalkers have charged on in. We gotta stop these Swift Shiver Charges from firing in. Tough one to say 5 times faster even at all. In charge, the Ancient Tomb Mummies. Sorry, big fools. The Eternal Guard do not last long against the elite undead. Many lie headless on the first charge. The rest will be slaughtered pretty quickly. Our Necro Serpent, keep calling this man a Necro Serpent. The Necro Sphinx is destroying these Cape Crusaders here. While our Necropolis Knights move on in, smashing into the other group of Wildwood Rangers in the other side. Or this, I guess we should say, normal unit of Glade Guard. Normies are not, they almost fall. Reinforcements have arrived. The Casket of Souls blasts a very, very accurate shot in, only minorly wounding our own, but we have to deactivate its fire pretty quickly there before we deal a lot of damage to our own. You don't look like the Forest's Wrath. Will he get a roll attack there? It works in Dark Souls. Let's see if it works for this guy. Nah, he's gonna turn and try to run. But Todd the Skeleton doesn't have it. Oh, he missed. Failed me for the last time. Meanwhile, Settra is dealing good damage. He got bogged down in these spears here. It says he isn't quite on... He's on only a Khemri. He's on a chariot there. He is quite weak in a melee fight. He may dish a lot of damage out, but he will take a lot in return. Need to pull these Sepulchral Stalkers out. They got bogged down with some Wildwood Rangers for a little bit too long there. But the Ancient Tomb Mummies will quickly move in and eliminate those that remain. While our own Sisters of Avalorn are annihilating. Hard to fight when you've got 2 arrows sticking out of your face, I would say at least. Spectral or not, most of the enemy have already thrown up the white flag. Khemri Titan hasn't even gotten to actually get into fight. Mulches more of our own lads there than the enemy. Tossing plenty around, but a single swipe of the claw. The Khemri Titan has been an amazing unit. I think my favorite, though, from this entire mod has been the Serpent Guard. Absolutely love the unit. Wish we had more constructs. They are completely wiped out a single unit of our own Ancient Tomb Mummies. They are more or less aspiring champions, just you have way more models. And they're better in every way. Just look at the Serpent Guard go. They're not really meant for close quarters combat, per se. But they perform very, I mean, I guess, especially against archers, they can perform very well. Incredible looking models. I guess they'll post in the comments which would have been your favorite of the modded units we've got to see so far for this campaign. We've seen quite a few. There are a few that we don't have access to unless playing as Archon or Port of Lybaras or even as Katep. We've gotten to snag a couple of Katep's unique units there. Oh, the Bears of Kislev. The motherland is here. Get those muskets firing. The Wood Elves have been broken. There is not a single one of them standing and fighting. There are far too many of our own swarming through the jungle. It's just the normal forest. The Oak of Ages has been pacified. And draw grants us victory once more. Only 17 fell in the final siege of the Oak of Ages. We will take this victory and we will immediately occupy it. It's so deflated now. The poor Oak of Ages. Talzin has been destroyed and Edri Eternos has been secured. Mission aborted. Now we're here to claim the Oak of Ages. It has been pacified. We are now immune to Athel-Lauren attrition. We gain timber resource production, growth, and extra income from all of our buildings faction-wide. But while not nearly as potent for us, it allows us to actually harvest the forest in peace without being attacked by constant Keebler invasions. A wonderful final victory there. War shall go on everlasting, but for now Settra is pleased. His legions at long last stride triumphantly down the streets of Khemri, their weapons and armor bearing the scars of countless battles. The kingdom now stretches from the land of the dead, down to the southern wastes, across Lustria, and much of the old world. His enemies scatter before his commanders like sand in the wind, and his allies grow more numerous by the day. With the period of the High Elves have been pledging loyalty to Khemri as well. The Golden Age may still be a ways off, but the path forward was finally clear for him to see. And with that, we close the book on Settra the Imperishable's story. And I can't thank you all enough for all of the incredible support from each and every one of you, as well as that of my lady and the Little Wizard. An unbelievable amount of time and effort went into this series, and it has been an awesome first attempt at a narrative campaign. I have learned a ton since the first episode and hope each and every chapter was even better than the last. As far as the next story will tell, Boris Ursus shall be returning, but not right away. I'll be building a recap episode and making sure everything is good to go when Update 3.0 rolls out. I really want the legendary hero Ulrika Magdova to make an appearance alongside the Dawi Czar, so I'll be taking some time to make sure that that can happen. But for the last time here with Settra, I'm in Space Wars of Total War. Leave a like for the Light God, a sub for the Sub Throne, and I will see you on the next one.